Yeah, hello guys. Welcome to AV Atmos. Make sure you subscribe if you like movie content and audio reviews as well. Now, I am going to a little bit look into this whole debate that has been going around the whole Star Wars Rise of Skywalker saga, and that is the fact that a lot of people that are Star Wars, especially this franchise, the more recent franchise, the guys that have been more or less against it, I can understand their dislike for the new trilogy. Even me, I am not really a big fan of what they have done with the remake of this, or sorry, the continuation of this franchise by Disney. But there is a lot of bias that is going into their discussions and their contents they have been putting out online and on their traits and all that. And they keep on saying that Rise of Skywalker is an unmedicated disaster, a flop, more or less. That it's not going to make money, even though it makes $1 billion. Even though I'm on Box Office Mojo right now, and the article is saying that this film has made money. Now, the thing is, let's take a look at the budget of Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker was let's take a look at Star Wars let's take a look at Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. I want to make something clear to some of you guys that follow this channel, because a lot of these guys that are making these contents don't really know much about box office and how it works. So they go out there and they say that, oh, it kind of has to make Endgame's kind of money, and before it's considered a success. Now, estimates shows here from Wikipedia, even though it could be wrong, but the estimate is showing that it's made for $275 million, which, from what they're saying, the $275 million makes it the kind of like the most expensive Star Wars film ever made. Now, that's fantastic. It's made for a lot of money. We can clearly see there's one of the most expensive movies ever made. Some people are arguing that, oh, they spent more, way more on it because of reshoots and all that nonsense. See, guys, originally this movie must have cost, I don't know, maybe 180 or 200 to make. Reshoots is not like it's rocket science that is going to take the same amount for the entire shoots to make the same for the reshoots, basically. So the $75 million can still be for the reshoots, basically. And let's take a look at the box office. The box office right now is at $919.6 million, and that is from 3 weeks. See, guys, with this sort of budget, and let's just hype the marketing to around $200 million. If this movie had a marketing of $200 million, you will be looking at a movie that would need an average of 800 to $900 million to break even. It would at least need 850 to break even. A lot of people are saying that, oh, it needs $1 billion to break even. See, guys, there is no movie in history that needs $1 billion to break even. Even movies like Batman versus Superman that cost $300 million to make, that movie made money. I think it made about $100 million in profit for Warner Brothers, even back then when they were struggling with the DCEU properties. And for Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, it is not making money as compared to the other ones, like the Force Awakens or the Last Jedi. But let's get something clear, guys. All the other Star Wars, especially the trilogy, if you guys follow the initial trilogy, aside the first film, the other two films did not make a lot of money at the box office. And I could go on and on showing you guys the records. And if we have to go by records, let's look at something, guys. A lot of people a lot of people are thinking for some reason, um, a lot of people are thinking for some reason that the initial Star Wars franchise made a ton of money, that like it was a big thing that they were doing back then, that if this one is not making that kind of money, it's not considered a success because of the kind of money the Force Awakens made. And let me tell you guys something that most people don't really realize. I'm trying to find the entire box office because it's always compiled. I'm trying to find it, guys, on Wikipedia, because at least Wikipedia has been able to compile this thing, makes it easy for me. Okay, since they didn't compile, let's go through one by one. The first one in 1970 was the year 1977. This made $775.5 million on an $11 million budget. This was an amazing achievement. It made a lot of money, and if we adjust this for inflation, this should be about I believe this should be almost a billion. Sorry, $2 billion if you adjust for inflation. Now, there's something I want to get across to you guys that most of you guys don't realize, especially the haters or the people that keep on whining about this Rise of Skywalker. Take a look at this. Let's look at this now. This film, the original Star Wars, made $410 million in United States. Now, if you adjust for inflation, it comes to around 1.7, almost $1.7 billion currently. But there is something I need you guys to pick out here. This other movie, this other movie made about $323 million globally. So what does that mean? This movie is not it has not been a big hit overseas, more or less. So it's not a big success overseas, more or less. So it has not been playing well overseas. It makes money in America more than it makes overseas. Let's take a look at the second one. The second one made almost $550 million, and let's take a look at what it did in America. In America, let's see. Let's see. Okay, man. Fine. Looking through these old articles is very, very weird. I'm trying to find this box office. I think they didn't put it down properly here. But if I go through box office mojo, I'll be able to get this records well. Now let's go to Return of the Jedi. Now, Return of the Jedi was the final one of the trilogy. Now you can see the Return of the Jedi made lower than Empire Strikes Back. And what is this saying? This movie had a diminishing return even in the 70s when it came out. Now, I know this video is getting a little bit long, but I really want to make this point known to so many of you guys that keep saying that Rise of Skywalker is a flop. It is not a flop, because let's take a look at even this one, that's the Return of the Jedi, that is kind of like the lowest earning out of the entire trilogy, or the original trilogy. It made a massive $309 million in the United States, which is still close to the $410 million the first one made. What does that mean? This movie plays extremely well in America. It does not play well overseas. We look at even the prequels, it's clear this movie does not play very well overseas. Let's take a look at Let's take a look at what this movie did. Honestly, the box office setup for these movies are kind of annoying. But regardless of whatever it is, honestly, these movies don't play very well overseas. If the this trilogy, they made more in America than they did overseas. So what am I getting at? Basically, even Force Awakens, which is the highest grossing out of the entire Star Wars film. Let's look at Force Awakens. Now, Force Awakens, because of the amount more or less it made in America, it kind of like took everything up to this $2,068,000,000 worldwide. Now let's see what it did in America. In America, it made $936 million in America alone, and it made 1.132 billion overseas. What does that mean? This movie did not play very well overseas as it should have, because if it is making almost 50% of its entire historic run in America back in 2015, it all goes to show you that this film did not play very well overseas, because you can clearly see it here, guys. And the trajectory has continued. Even the newer movies continued that trend. And here we have movies like what's this thing called, the Last Jedi, which follows similar trend to the original trilogy here, uh, and Rise of Skywalker, which is making $1 billion right now. And I'm not making this content to justify this movie's underperformance. Yes, it underperformed compared to its previous films in the franchise. But is it a flop, or is it that is like a disaster disappointment? Absolutely not. This film is making money for Disney, whether you want to like it or not, whether you take what I'm saying here or not. It is clear on paper this movie is successful. Whatever you want to say about it is successful. For Christ's sake, this film is making $500 million in America. Even that alone is profit on its own. You understand, guys? And any other thing he makes overseas is icing on the cake. This film would at least make $200 million in profit when it's all said and done. And how many studios in a year pull out $200 million in profits from all their movies? Even smaller studios like Blumhouse, they don't really make that kind of money, guys. What am I getting at? And the conclusion to this film, to me, on paper, is successful. Did it underperform compared to the other ones? Yes, it underperformed, but is it a flop? Absolutely not. This film is nowhere near a flop. And will it be seen as a failure? As far as I'm concerned, a movie that makes $1 billion three times in its franchise, I don't even think there's another franchise that have done this, making $1 billion three times in its trilogy. This is a success, whether you want to spin it the right way or you want to spin it the negative way. It's still a success. Rise of Skywalker is a success box office wise. It underperformed compared to the originals, but it is still a success regardless, guys. Follow us on social media, guys. Subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you guys later.